I'm Elle Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities. Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Curiosities. My name is Elle, and if you are wanting to make impactful change in your life and transform the mediocre into the magnificent, and would like to know more about how I can assist you through this journey, you can send me a message on Instagram or visit my website, lembers.com. Now, before we dive into today's episode, let's take a couple of minutes to just take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Relax our shoulders, connect into our heart, and prepare our human to step into the bravest version of ourselves. Today we are discussing the journey to abundance on the other side of fear, which is a quote often said by the Galayla Collective, which is a multidimensional collective trance-channeled by the lovely Leanne Rose, who you may remember from episode 11 in season 1. We cover so much in this episode about the steps in overcoming fear, and both Leanne and I share a lot about our journey through this. So make sure you stick around at the end to catch Leanne channel the GC to share their multidimensional insights for an added bonus. So, let's dive in. Hey Leanne, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome back. How are you?
Gorgeous lady, thanks so much for having me. I am amazing. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been so long since we've got to chat and I'm so excited. Would you like to give everyone a little refresher on who you are and what you do?
Of course. So my name's Leanne. I am a trance channel for an interdimensional collective consciousness that I now know, source frequency, but they call themselves the Galayla Collective. And what I do is help people to really anchor into the truth that they are the creators of their own reality. So that's kind of my work in a nutshell. But lots of crazy woo-woo stuff is kind of like the layman terms for it.
It's so funny. I completely get the whole, you do the thing and they're like, oh, the really woo-woo stuff. Like I had a event just recently and it was a combined event and this girl that was a podcaster, she attended and then she mentioned it in the podcast and she was like, but I won't explain that to you. I'll let you Google it because it's a bit woo. I was like, I can feel that. It's like, it's not something you want to have to explain.
Yeah, it can be a little bit kind of daunting sometimes, can't it? I was on a podcast the other day, and I didn't really know the host very well. She just invited me on, and I remember thinking, oh gosh, like even though she knew I was a trance channel, I remember thinking I had to explain myself. I was like, right now, if you've not seen this before, it's gonna look weird. Like we kind of get used to foreshadowing that people are going to be a little bit kind of taken aback, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, hang on, guys. Here's the whole like pre-session conversation of like, so this is what to expect, this is what not to expect, this is what could be unpredictable, we'll just see how we go.
I suppose we're setting our own nervous systems up really, aren't we? It's always kind of going, oh my gosh, this is going to get weird, and I'm used to weird, but they might not be, so
yeah, totally. I think that's just something that we've accepted now. It's like, yeah, things Absolutely. Could just get a little weird. It's just another day. It's whatever. Yeah.
And if it's not got weird today, then it's like, okay, what's going on? Like, it feels 2-3D today. What's happening?
Well, I mean, I've invited you back today because your first episode back in season 1 was amazing. So many people loved it. We were talking about manifestation and how you kind of found yourself in this journey. And we've worked together a fair bit, and you were such a big part in me stepping out of my fear in being accepted as a channel And coming into introducing Sari to the world was a big, big thing.
Yeah.
And we covered a lot around fear. And you are the queen of conquering fear, my love.
As are you now, babes. You got plenty of practice.
So I guess when it comes down to not even just the woo-woo side of fear, but what does fear mean? What does fear hold? What is its purpose in our day-to-day lives as humans?
So obviously we've done a fair bit of work with this, the GC, haven't we? So we talk about these two kinds of dominant frequencies that we sit in. And there's a fair bit of evidence to support this now. I was watching something the other day and I was like, oh, we say that, we talk about that. So there's this, we talk about these two core frequencies. Either we are in full truth, full power, full source frequency, where we completely and deeply embody the truth that we are source energy in human form. And there is the illusion element that we create for ourselves when we incarnate. And I'm doing this in kind of quotations because even that in and of itself is kind of an illusion. When we step into the perspective that we are human, we take on the illusion of separation from source. And that is what we call your fear frequency or your powerlessness frequency. And so we understand that in human terminologies as fear. But what we understand this as, and not we as humans, we as in the GC, the Galayla Collective elements of things, is we see this just as a thread. It's a core thread of the illusion of separation from source. And so when we are invited to engage with fear, what we're actually being invited to dance with is this idea that we are so much more powerful than we ever really possibly recognized ever. And we are being invited to transmute that piece. So for you, your beautiful example of the channeling piece, which you're always destined for greatness, babes. And it's this piece, and we all are. We're all destined for greatness. Do you know what I mean? We are all individual pieces of source energy that come into these bodies to really transmute. And our version of this is that it's a bit of a game, that it's actually quite playful, and that we come here and we forget that we are source energy. And that's all part of the game. We come here to forget. This is our playground in which to remember. So the journey of being human is about remembering that we are source energy. And the fear piece is the part of us that's forgotten. That's basically what it is. And so when we come at this from that perspective of, oh, if something fearful is coming up into my world, instead of running and hiding from it, if we can look at it as a part of us that's saying, you believe that you're powerless in this area, but you're not. And your system is trying to show you that you're not by having this extreme reaction in the body, in the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual bodies. It's trying to show you, it's trying to make you so uncomfortable that you look at this part of you. And so one of the ways that we tend to really engage with this, and I know it was the same for you, the same for me as a little, and even though I didn't have the full extremes like you did of like seeing things, I just had the felt sense that I could connect with spirits and was terrified of it. And this is kind of where many of us step into when we begin to really connect with the multidimensional self. Now, that's really when we begin to acknowledge that we're more than human and that there are spirits and things like that out in the world, and that there is the other side, if you like, to connect with. We respond in terms of fear frequency because it's basically our human piece going, I don't recognize that. It's something that is beyond my realm of understanding. And it looks like fear, it looks like contrast. But if you conquer that piece, what's on the other side of it, and the GC say this all the time, that abundance lives on the other side of fear, is an expansion in your world, because now you have integrated the truth that you're so much more than human. That was a very, very rambly answer, but I get very excited talking about this topic, don't I? I'm always like, yeah, well, let's talk about it.
No, I love it. I love it. And you know what? The GC's quote all the time of like abundance lives on the other side of fear is something that I have just kind of clung to, honestly. I'm just like, you just got to get through it. You just got to, this scares you. It's fine. It's fine. This is all part of the experience. This is all part of the learning curve. We just got to get to the other side. Once we get to the other side, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
And it gives you something to anchor into. It gives you that element of, this too shall pass, like that piece.
Yes.
And it helps you to be in the fear and recognize, oh, there's something juicy in this. Like there is something that's waiting for me on the other side. And I suppose I've kind of got to the point now where I'm kind of like, I no longer push away the fear pieces anymore. I'm able to sit with them a little bit longer. And what I've found is that the more I can be comfortable sitting in the discomfort and sitting in the fear, the more I learn. And the more that, we used to say this when we were working together, didn't we? Is that when we move into that phase 2 element, when we move into that fear frequency, there's a juicy piece there for us, isn't there? Like there's always a juicy piece of, oh, I'm stepping into the next level version of myself. Like when I transmute this fear, I'm stepping into the next level version of myself. And don't get me wrong, there's still some days out when I'm like, this is too uncomfortable. I want to be on the other side of this. Like, no. But I'm also really learning to kind of craft that element of really sitting with the juiciness and really just allowing it to be, okay, I feel uncomfortable, but I'm okay with being uncomfortable. And that's almost when you really are able to hold the duality piece together really extreme in like that beautiful way of, oh, I'm feeling my human, I'm in my human, but I've got my source frequency awareness that carries me through that fear piece. And it's taken a long time, a long time. As you know, like this stuff takes years, doesn't it? It's the path to mastery. And, the stuff that we were doing, it just builds on a lot of the stuff that you're doing intuitively anyway. Do you know what I mean? It becomes just a beautiful catalyst for us to create magic together. I give you the pieces I've got, the GC give you the pieces they've got, you give me the pieces you've got, and we just create magic. Like that's really the way of the world, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that was I've forgotten what you've asked me now because I got I just get so excited because legitimately this piece is literally the piece to transform your life. Like when you can embrace fear, when you learn that transmuting fear on a daily basis, and we call this present moment mastery now, when you can learn to just recognize, oh, fear serves me. This is a contrast piece that I am being invited to dance with, to transmute, and to just lovingly embrace the other elements of myself that's being birthed in while I'm moving through this. And you were saying before, well, I mean, we had a bit of a pre-conversation ramble, didn't we? Us pretending that we were just like, just seeing each other for the first time before. But you so lovingly called in that element. So people are really scared right now. Like there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and it is really, really important that, so we talk about this whole step from 5D to 6D consciousness, and that we're in full swing in that right now. Like we are stepping into the new paradigm, and they talk about this in terms of, the pressure's on. In order for us to really experience more source frequency and more abundance, we have to go through the fear piece. Like that's the piece that transmutes us. And they talk about it. They've always shown this diamond as like the core of what they talk about. And there's loads of different reasons for that. But one of the most recent reasons that they've presented me with is a diamond is formed under pressure. And that's exactly what fear does. It places us under pressure, and it forces us to forge our inner diamonds. It forces us to return home to our inner sovereignty, to our inner wisdom, to our own connection to source, not going out there for it, but our own connection. And I know that you are assisting people to connect with their team, connect with their own source frequency and what that looks like for them. This is what we're being really pulled into now. And we've got to be uncomfortable in order to go looking for that information. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that yourself, that you go looking for this information when you feel like utter crap, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, like I was talking to another practitioner the other day about a client that we had both been working with. And this lovely client, like she came to us when things were at its worst, right? And that's what pushes people into change. So there's something about being stuck in the middle that's just so much more scary and uncomfortable, because if you think about seeing your life where things are comfortable enough that, things are okay, things aren't great, but they're not terrible. Yeah. But if things are really fucking bad, that's when you're actually going to be driven to achieve that great end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so this is what we were talking about with this client, is because she's like, I just want to feel normal. I just want to feel okay. It's like, no, babe, you don't.
You really don't.
Trust us, you don't. You want to be feeling at your fucking worst so that you can get to what you feel at the best. Because if you're somewhere stuck in the middle there, you're not going to experience any change. And you're going to be sitting in this constant state of just comfortable but uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And nothing will ever change.
And it's stagnant, isn't it? And, when we come at it from this level of, we kind of operating from this level now of, we are literally creator consciousness. Like, that is what we are. We come here to create. We don't come here to sit in comfort. That's not what we come here to do in any way, shape, or form. That's our core essence. We can go back to that at any point we choose to. Like, we come here to play. Like, we literally come here to craft, and we need extremes to do that. Like, it's the very worst things that push us into the greatest heights. It's the deepest lows that allow us to feel the most incredible highs. Like, that is the joy of being human. And I also get that it's the grief of being human, it's the pain of being human, but the grief and the pain are the catalysts for the magic. Like, so many of us, especially in fifth dimensional consciousness, we're trying to push away the human experience. We're trying to, how many people do you know, they're just trying to get out of their body out? Do you know what I mean? They're just trying to, like, I'm done with the human experience. This is the last time I'm incarnating on this planet. No, it's not. It's not, because you chose to be here. You actually fucking love it as a creator consciousness. You adore it. Like, you literally adore it. You're just disconnected from that part of you right now. Like, and when you really kind of step into that element, all pieces become, oh my fucking God, this is so magical. Like, I literally, one piece that dropped in for me the other day is, one of the core things that kind of drove me to manifestation was the fact that I hated my body, like, hated it with a passion. And I know that sounds awful, but it was true. And I know that I'm not the only lady or man that holds this truth about their body. And it literally, I was so uncomfortable. It caused me depression, anxiety. Like, I would push people away because of it. It was that extreme that literally, it sent me in the direction of going towards manifestation. It's actually what put me on this huge, huge journey. I have manifested wonderful changes in my body that I never thought were possible. Like, literally never thought were possible. But then the moment my internal reality shifts into, oh, it's not enough, the body then shifts back. Like, it's so, like, my mind's been blown at how much we do have physical control over what is happening, like, in our body, in our system. But I come to this recognition the other day. Like I say, I've been going through this intense rebirth process, intense, and it's constant. And I know I'm not the only one. But one of the huge pieces that dropped in for me the other day was, oh my gosh, like, because I was suddenly shown, oh no, this is the body you're creating. And like, fully like had that step in of, oh, okay, no, that's it. That's the body I'm creating. And the discomfort in this moment comes because I know I'm on a creation journey to creating that body. And what I actually recognized was, yes, I love this body in this moment. And I do love my body now, and not because of the changes, but because it's my body and I created it and it's me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it holds my consciousness. It's a vessel for my soul. But I also fell in love with this even bigger perspective of, but I created this version so that I can build this other version. Like, and it was like this, oh my God, I finally get the falling in love with the journey process, because what we're actually falling in love with is the creation process. Like, oh my God, I am a creator and I get to shift and change these pieces, and it's pure magic. And if I just came in perfect, on quotations, perfect.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing. If I came in the exact same way that I wanted to, the game would be over. What would be the point? Like, and they've said this from the get-go of like, this is why it's not very often that they will give people the bone level confirmation that they need to know that source energy is real, because they're like, well, we'll spoil the game. Like, we're not going to do that. Like, you are here to discover this on your own terms, and we're never going to ruin that for you. There've been some people where it's part of their journey that we do help them confirm that. And in that way, they just blabbermouth and they'll just spill the beans and give you everything.
Yeah.
Because it's, because your soul's aligned with that, and they're not doing you over. They're not stealing something in your future that's going to be monumental for you, So they're very in touch with that stuff. But I think this is the piece that is the most important for us when we're talking about fear, is that fall in love with where you are right now. Because the version of you 10 years from now is going to go, oh my God, look how far I have come. Look how much I've created for myself. Look how much I conquered. Look how much I transmuted. How victorious do I feel now because of all of that crap that I waded through? And I know a lot of people are in this place now where they're beginning to recognize, oh, a lot of crap has happened to me in my life, but I've turned it into magic. And if you're on that cusp, then 60 consciousness is coming for you, babes, because when you're really able to anchor into that, you're beginning to recognize the value in contrast, the value in fear, the value in not being where you want to be, but being able to transmute that and begin to turn it into something of value and of purpose.
Yeah, it's almost like just realizing that old saying of like, oh, there's a silver lining in everything, right? There fucking is. It's like all the bad shit, it happens for a reason, and there's a juicy like reason as to why. And like I look at really traumatic things that have happened in my life, like even for example, my mum passing away at a really young age. Like, of course, that is a horrible thing to happen, a horrible thing to go through. And I still hold care and kindness for what I went through and how I dealt with it. But if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be the woman I am now.
Absolutely. And, you know, and we share that experience, don't we? You know, and
yeah.
And it really was, like I've said this from the moment that I stepped into the trance channeling piece, I've suddenly fully realized, oh, that was the catalyst. Like it was one of the worst things. And there was plenty of, sure you don't mind me saying, plenty of awful things that happened to us when we were young guns, wasn't it, Ellen?
Yeah.
It's almost like the cherry on top, but it's almost like you are forging that fire. And actually, I remember them saying this to you. They were saying you were forging the fire. Like we come in with these very specific things that happen that are just forging this sovereignty within us. It's forging that trust in ourselves. And then there is usually a huge catalyst piece that kind of pushes us over into saying, I'm going to take charge of my life. Like, yes, it's going to touch the deepest grief that we could ever possibly move into. But I honestly believe that it's that grief that changes us. It transmutes us. It really allows us to recognize, if I dealt with that, I can deal with anything. And it really helped you step in to that wondrous piece. And when you are able to look back and recognize that happened for me, not to me, I find it really difficult to kind of describe the tangible frequency that you move into when you're able to really anchor in that truth. Like, it just changes your life, doesn't it? Like, really, truly changes your life when you can anchor in that, yes, these really awful things that happened, I know that they happened for me. I know that they served me. And I'm really honoring that rather than trying to push that part of me away. And if we're coming at this from this idea that we are creator consciousnesses that create our entire lives, then how sacred is it that those things were created? Like, I created those things for this wonderful being that I am turning into, that I'm crafting and shaping. And I love this being. And I also love the beings that were involved with all the crappy stuff that, you know, and there's been some real crappy stuff that has happened in my life, and I know when crappy stuff happens, there is always a reason for it. And I remember there have been parts in my life, there's been times in my life when if somebody said that to me, I would want to headbutt them.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, really? Like, and it's okay. Like, if you are in that state, if you're listening to us now and you're not ready to accept that truth, that's completely okay. Like, really hold yourself in that. Allow yourself to feel the rage. Allow yourself to feel that it's not okay that these things happen to you. That's love frequency. That is love frequency, and it's self-love frequency. And it's what's going to really pull you into, it's not okay that this happened. I deserve better. I deserve more. And I'm going to go after that. I'm going to serve me. Like, that's self-love. That's real self-love. So if you're in that state, know that we're not here to trigger you. We are here to invite you into that greater perspective of love frequency within you. And if you're in that element where you're like, oh, yeah, no, I totally get this, then you're on the tracks, babes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, there's been so many times, like, even still now, like, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, like, we get stuck in these moments of like, well, fuck this, I hate this, this was shit. And like, today was just the worst day ever, and everyone can go fuck themselves. Like, you know, and that doesn't change. Like, that's still, you know, we still experience that. But it's how we navigate our way through it and how long we decide to sit with it. Because, of course, we need to sit with it. We need to feel it so that we can then pivot and move into the next phase that we need to move into. Because so often we think that we're just meant to be living on this high frequency, high vibration all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no. Those sad emotions, that rage, that aggression, that fear, everything, it's meant to be felt.
Yeah.
If we're here in this illusion that we're human and experiencing this form, we're only here for the blink of a frickin' eye. In terms of time, 80 years average lifespan, like that's not that long when you think of eternity.
It's really not. Really not.
So, like, wouldn't we want to experience as much as we could in the time that we're here?
Exactly.
And make the most of it.
Yeah, I love that. And we talk about this in kind of the 5D stuff of like the spiritual bypassing that happens a lot, like trying to avoid the human experience, like trying to get out of the difficult emotions. It's about going through them. It's not about trying to skate around them. Like that's the transmutation piece. That's literally where your power lies. Like you come here to feel the grief. And so I've spoken about this story before, but there was a moment when after losing my mum that like, you know, when you get that gut-wrenching grief, like, and it kind of like it wins you, like it really wins you, and you're like, oh my God, like I literally can't breathe. I literally cannot breathe. It's having such an impact on my system. And I remember feeling into it and just being like, oh my gosh, this is the most extreme I've ever felt, feeling completely out of control with it. And then all of a sudden, I started to laugh. And it was like the body itself just transmuted the grief. I started to laugh, and then I suddenly felt like there was like tears streaming. I must have looked like a raving lunatic, an absolute lunatic. Like tears streaming down my face. I'm laughing my head off, and then I just felt this like absolute joy, this like full-on bliss. But to feel grief itself transmuted into this joy, to feel the depth of grief, like that was what actually brought the joy on. Was to feel the depth of grief is such an exquisite experience. Like when you really give yourself to it. And I kind of had to give myself to it at this point. It was like, it kind of takes over at some points, doesn't it? Your system kind of forces you into these things. But it was monumental. It was almost this element of like, oh, I literally enjoyed grieving. Like that's such a strange, like paradoxical. But then when you really come at this from this element of like, well, I created grief as an emotion. You know, we as source frequency created grief for us to experience the contrast of all that we are. Like, how fucking amazing is that? Like really, when you think about it. And we were chatting to somebody the other day. We were doing a channeled Q&A with someone the other day, and we were talking about like really fall in love with the idea that you created every single tiny piece of what you move through. Not one tiny thing that you move through as a human being is not of divinity, is not of source, is not linked to some truly sacred and wondrous creation. Like every single piece is designed for you. Every single piece. And when you truly embrace that truth, yes, we feel the crappy stuff. Yes, we have days when we're fully in the human. And yes, we have days when I just want to like headbutt a wall because I'm like, what is going on? I'm feeling like really in the thick of it. And it's, you know, it's feeling like really overwhelming. But there's also what happens is when we're practicing these frequencies, I'm fully in it. I'm fully allowing it. But there's also, it's almost like a protective bubble that's around you because of this perspective of knowing, oh, look at me pretending I'm human and pretending I'm all annoyed and pretending I'm this and pretending I'm that and pretending I'm disconnected from source. Like, and there's always a bit of humor in it. And oh God, how humorous is the universe, Elle? Like really, when you're really in touch with it, is it not just about a laugh? Like so I'll have moments when I'm like gut wrench, like screaming on the floor, not screaming, like crying on the floor, like, oh, I'm moving emotion through, I'm transmuting it. And I'll just have this little twitter in the back of my brain, look at you. It helps life feel so much lighter. Like we still feel grief, things still happen. Contrast is always going to be part of our lives. Fear is always going to be a part of our lives because we created it that way. Like it's designed for us. It helps us to feel those extremes, to journey from the truth that we're human to the truth that we are source. Like it saves us. But when you're really dancing with these perspectives, it hits differently, doesn't it? It hits differently. And you're like, I kind of get it. And you can accept things a lot more. There's an acceptance and a relaxedness in the body. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's like as soon as I had that perspective shift and really practiced it consistently, it was almost like that constant level of anxiety that kind of sits around those situations just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Like the grief and the anger and everything else was still there, but there wasn't that just stressful anxiety attached to it. Yeah. It was a lot easier to process because I wasn't disconnected from it.
And it's that powerlessness piece, isn't it? It really is that powerlessness piece, is when we recognize, oh, I'm not powerless in this situation. I'm still going to have human emotions. I'm still going to feel. And I'd say is one thing that really kind of elevated for me was sacred rage. Sacred rage moves through me so much easier now than it used to. But I now see how that serves me. It kind of lights a fire underneath my little bottom, if you like, and goes, oh, okay, I really don't like that piece for the collective. Like I go into full, I know it sounds really daft, but I go into full like mama mode of like, I want to protect everyone. Stupid, right? But it lights this rage within me of like, this doesn't serve the highest frequencies of love. And where I used to really push that piece down, because, you know, we're taught, oh, anger's bad. You know, we don't do that. That's not very spiritual. We don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that. No, like there are these huge boundaries being crossed. That doesn't serve the highest frequencies of love. I'm going to apply my creative power in this particular area to say, no, I'm not okay with that. And now I really embrace this idea that the answers don't always drop in instantaneously, do they? Like sometimes you've got to really sit with what many would deem as a negative emotion, like anger or grief or, you know, confusion. Sometimes you've got to really sit and marinate in that energy for the answers to drop in. But you've got to be able to embrace those elements of you, to sit with it long enough for the wisdom to filter through. That's the transmutation piece. I can't remember what I was talking about now. I've gone on a rant again. But
Absolutely. You reminded me of, there's a meme that was going around for a while that was like, oh, you know, spiritual people don't cuss and like they don't swear. And it's like, oh, really? That's why your throat chakra is fucking blocked. Like,
it's so funny you should say that, you know, because I used to like, I'm really stepping into like next level version of myself now, like to the point where I'm like, wow, I really don't recognize myself. Like I'm looking at like old videos and I'm like, you know, she was, God bless her, she was just so powerless, like to the world. She really didn't own who she was, and she's a bit of a limp biscuit, God bless her. Like not like the bands, I mean like an actual limp biscuit, like I loved her, you know what I mean? But I'm kind of like, I'm stepping into this new version now, and she's just like effing and jeffing all over the gap, like, and I'm like, but you know what, that's my expression. Like people look at me and think, oh, she's blue eyes, she's blonde hair, and some people have been a bit like, oh, you know, you can be a bit angelic, and I used to be when I was very in the 5D frequencies, and I was like, please everybody but yourself, please everybody else but everyone else. Yeah. And now I'm just like, F this, F that, no, that's no good, no, not having any of that. No, you think you can cross my boundaries? I don't bloody think so, mate, not a fucking chance. Like
yeah.
Oh, but it does take some getting used to. Like I've got some content I'm going to be putting out. This stuff really kind of taps into the power of like sexual frequencies and things like that, really reclaiming that life force energy. And like this has been moving through me for like a long time, but I still haven't put a lot of stuff out on it because there was still that part of me that goes, oh, this might be too much for people. It might not be well received, and people might think I'm this kind of person. But now I'm kind of moving into this state of like, I know I'm an integrity, I know who I am, and I know that this is a gift that is going to serve people. And if I don't step into that, I'm not being of service, not only to myself, but the people that need to feel into these frequencies and the information that comes from my individual piece. And I'm really starting to just be like, I don't care what I look like to the world anymore. Like, and that's massive. Like, that's huge. And it's the fear frequency that stops us from stepping into that full authentic expression, isn't it? It kind of keeps us small. It keeps us muted. And I'm really ready to like break out of that now. I say that. You probably won't see the content for another couple of weeks, another couple of months. I'm really ready. And my human's going, no, not quite yet, babes. Just, yeah, put the brakes on a little bit.
But that's okay too, you know, like there's power to it feeling right in the moment.
Yeah.
And being authentic to the energy that you're processing. So like, for example, if you tried to post that content and your whole system, like source and human, weren't fully on board, it would come across as ingenuine. Exactly. It would come across as inauthentic.
Yeah.
And it would have a bad reaction, or it would be badly received because it's not feeling aligned with your energetics. Yeah. Whereas if you wait till it feels right and you're human and your source and everything's like, yeah, now's the time, girl. Like, fuck yeah. That's when it's going to like really hit home for the right people.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, like some people might be like, oh, this is a bit out of your field, or like, you know, whatever. But again, that's coming from their place of insecurities. And when they step into who they are in terms of source, in terms of human, and coming into alignment with those energetics, they will then see what you are saying. And they'll then be able to resonate with what you're saying because they're on that same level. It's
Absolutely.
just having that patience for them and the kindness in that transition.
Yeah. And, there's always going to be people, isn't there? No matter how authentically expressed we are, there is always going to be those people that we trigger, accidentally. But it's actually, it's hugely of service when somebody triggers something within you that is deeply uncomfortable. What's basically happening is that your powerlessness frequency or your fear frequency is coming to the forefront. Like, it's actually deeply of service to trigger. Not that it's intentional in any way, shape, or form, but when we step into our own light, when we step into our own magic, these frequencies have a way of kind of breaking up illusion around it, and it will activate people. So if you are stepping into the new level version of yourself, which I know many of us are doing at this, I mean, we're all doing it all the time, but I think we talked about this before, weren't we? There's a huge escalation of this at the moment. We are cycling through things so quickly. Don't be put off by people trying to dim your light a little bit. There is an energy of this. Some of it will be around your own core frequencies that are beginning to reflect these things back to you. But the important thing is your reaction to that. And are you going to allow that external thing to allow you to shrink back down? Or are you going to hold the new frequency and say, oh no, I trust myself. I trust myself to hold this frequency. I trust myself to know that I'm in integrity. I trust myself to know that I am yielding these higher frequencies. And I also trust you as an element of source also to recognize that there is a piece in here for you to transmute and to deal with. And I might want to get involved with that and I might not, and that's okay. We're just here to recognize that there is this beautiful, intricate dance that's moving through us every single second of every single day. But our job is to look after our individual piece, because when we do that, the rest of source frequency is also invited to do the same.
Yeah. And I think too, like, when it comes down to operating in that fear frequency and processing and transmuting and moving through it, the thing that keeps most people small is they're not aware to that perspective.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people now might be hearing what we're saying and they're like, yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't understand how to put that into practice.
Yeah.
So what's maybe some advice that you could offer as a first step for people that want to step into moving through that fear frequency?
So this would be the time when I would talk about the 4 energy bodies. And we were talking about this juicy piece that Sari had dropped in for something before. You're definitely going to have to I hope you shared that with people because it's bloody amazing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this idea, and we work with the 4 energy bodies. So your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So most of us have a cognitive understanding of certain things, but only at the mental body. So we have an understanding that all is one. We have an understanding that we are source energy. We have an understanding that we are the creators of our reality. We have an understanding that we all are plugged in and can have psychic gifts, but we only are integrating it at the mental level. So what I would say is that don't neglect your other bodies. You have an emotional body, you've got a physical body. Your spiritual body is kind of, I won't go into the complexities of that, but that also includes everyone around you as elements of your multidimensional self, because you are one and you are all of it and it is all you. But we won't go into that. So the core thing for me would be, if there is something coming up in your system, so it's usually the mental body that will kind of integrate in that. There'll be a thought, there will be a specific thing that you are wanting to get over, and you might have received some images, or like you might be recognizing, oh, it comes from my inner child, but it's all sitting up here. And until we bring it into the emotional body, until we bring it into the physical body, until we actually learn to transmute it, then it's not going to truly, fully 100% shift. And that's where your power lies. Your power lies in really being able to integrate this shift. So what I would really, really, really invite you to do is be the version of yourself that has already overcome that fear. How is she holding herself? How is she feeling about life? What stories does she tell herself about? And I'm saying her because I'm used to dealing with a lot of women, but if you're a he, then himself. How do you move through the world? What kinds of ways do you treat your physical body? What foods are you feeding yourself? How much time are you giving yourself to rest? How do you feel in your emotional body? Are you grateful about the world? Do you see the beauty in everything? Do you feel lit up? Are you grateful? Do you feel appreciation for life in and of itself? Are you able to interact with people in a way that can hold a loving space, even when they're being assholes, excuse the French, but but also hold your boundaries around that and hold enough of that love frequency for yourself and not just give your power away and yourself to everybody else around you? What kinds of thoughts do you tell yourself about how powerful you are to change what's happening in your world? Are you feeding into the idea that you're powerless? Are you feeding into the idea that you are a wounded person who needs to heal from generations of trauma before you can step into happiness? Or are you stepping into it now? Like, what does that feel like? What is that version of you like? And just become that person. And I know that sounds like, oh, how do I become that person? Like, pretend that you are playing that person for a day. And I don't mean just pretend up here in the mental body. The mental body is a really useful tool to kind of visualize things and imagine things. But I'm talking like hold your body in the way that you would hold your body if you were this person. So if you're driving a car, how does this version of you drive the car? Is it with confidence? Is the back upright and ready? Is there always one hand on the, what's it called? The gear stick. Because you know that you're ready to respond at any moment. Are you feeling really alive? Are you dancing more? Do you sing more? Like, when I'm saying become this version, and there's always this tool, isn't there? Like, people say about, oh, well, if you want to become rich, then just pretend you're rich and go and spend all your money. Like, no, that's no. Like, what would it feel like within your system to know that you can spend money? Like, don't just go out and do it. Like, we're not just doing the external pieces. It's the internal frequency that you are moving towards. So that's the core piece that I always tell people is the external thing that you are desiring, completely possible for you to have it. Always completely possible. But the way of getting it is to recognize that you don't need it. Like, there is an internal frequency that external manifestation is trying to call you into. And that's where your power lies, because your internal reality creates your external world. So when it comes to transmuting the fear piece, what I would say is embody the idea that this fear piece is trying to show you that there is a next level version of yourself that's being birthed in. And it's your job to birth that version of yourself in. It's not the universe's job. You're not waiting on signs. You're not waiting on doors to be opened. All you are waiting on is you deciding to step in to that version of yourself now. And it doesn't matter what that looks like out there. It matters what it looks like in here. That's where your power lies. And that is when your life will change.
Mic drop. No, it's so true. And the idea that came to my head then as well is like, when you're scared, right? So imagine being at a carnival and there's like a haunted house, right? And you're like, oh, I'm too scared to go in. I don't want to go in. But if you're with your friend and your friend's like, oh, I'm too scared. I don't want to go in. And you're like, oh, well, come on then. Let's do it. Like, you're so much braver when like,
braver.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if you are in this state of embodying who this person is through the other side of fear, through the other side of grief, through like whatever it is, if you are embodying that person, just as you are embodying the person that's brave in front of their friend.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, it's not the whole like fake it till you make it. It's just it's just shifting into this other version of yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's baby steps as well. So many of us are, when we get much more adept at being able to speak the language of frequency, we can make bigger jumps, like, because we're used to it, we believe it. We talk a lot about the beliefometer, they're calling it now, like how much you actually believe that you can actually step into these things. And it's our belief that creates the magic. Like, we really need to believe it to know that it's possible. So if it feels like too big of a stretch to say, well, I'm the version of myself that has £1 million in my bank. And I use money because that's usually the first thing that comes to people's brains. But it could be like, oh, well, the version of myself that has a loving partnership. Then take baby steps. Like, and it's easier to do this with money. But let's say, oh, okay, well, I'm the version of myself that has £1,000 in excess more than I need today. Like, how does that shift? And then the day after, well, £2,000 in excess. And same with like the relationships. I'm the version of myself who is chatting to somebody that is showing me interest today. How do I hold myself differently? The next day, I'm talking to somebody that's openly said he wants to date me. today. Just take baby steps. It doesn't have to be huge jump. If you can believe that it's possible, then that's when it's going to be so much juicier. And like, I love that gorgeous analogy of, oh, well, I know what it feels like to feel braver when I'm around my friends. So if it means that you have to find a bit of an example that's going to help you step into that's always a juicy way of doing it as well, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, I remember this time in my life, I felt so much happier, or I felt a little bit freer. So I'm going to remember what that felt like and kind of try that on today, like a piece of clothing, like try your frequency on like clothing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, it's like, let's dress up. How do I want to be today? Like, no, I don't like that jacket. Like, fuck that off.
I love it. Right, we're going to have to write content on this now. That's it. I'm going to be started on this in a minute.
Yeah. It's like, depression's a little heavy. We're going to lose that jacket. We're going to lose that one. We're going to go with the cute little crop top. Yep.
Yeah. We're going to go with mildly sad today is what we're going to go with. We're going to drop depression. We're going to go with mildly sad with a hint of gothic chic. There you go.
Oh, I love it. But that's the thing, right? Is like, sometimes we look at where we're at, and we look at people we idolize and where they're at. So like, even if you were to look at someone who, let's stick with the example of money. So like, you look at someone who is earning 6 figures in a business. They're a CEO. They've got the promotion. They've got all the good things. And you're still earning minimum wage. Like, you're opposite ends of the scale. So we often think that that's a pipeline dream, right? Like, that's impossible. That's so hard for me to get to. Like, it's just never going to happen. But when you place it and break it down into steps of like, okay, I don't need to go from minimum wage to CEO. I just need to go from minimum wage to above minimum wage to then above that and above that and above that, until eventually the next one above that's the CEO one, and you're like, I'm here.
Literally. So I just want to share a really juicy story. So about a year ago, I did this little ritual for myself, and I was still in my job about a year ago, still on my 9 to 5, and I just seeded this magic within this ritual of, I'm going to have my own business. And at that time, it literally was just, I want my own business. Like, it wasn't even, I want to leave my job or anything like that. A year later, I literally created, the 6-figure business, left my job, all that kind of stuff, like literally created all that. Never believed it was possible at that point in time, but it was the baby steps that got me there. And it wasn't that, it was the belief in, I know I'm divinely supported, and I know that the pieces are going to be revealed to me as I move from my own heart space, from my own kind of integrity, from my own safety. That was a huge piece, was this. Okay, so at this moment in time, it's safe for me to say, I'm going to create this thing, but it feels really out there. And then I was immediately invited to dance with, why don't you put together this kind of program? And why don't you put together this kind of program? And why don't you put together this kind of program? Now, in all of that, I had completely forgotten about this beautiful little ritual that I'd done for myself. And a year later, with all of those baby steps along the way, which were nothing to do with the big thing that I plugged in, it all came to fruition, like every single piece of it. And then some, like, and then some, like really, and then some. So it's that beautiful balance, isn't it, of being able to, I'm holding the bigger vision in that I know I'm divinely supported. I'm trusting in the bigger vision, but my conscious awareness is in this moment now, and how I transmute this beautiful little moment now. And that's the thing that grows and grows and grows. And I think that the bit that I really want to kind of express here is that when you're seeing those people coming into your awareness, and you're going, try and see them as, that's what's possible for me. That's what's possible for me. Like, we are all one. It's coming into my level of awareness to say, this is what's possible for me. And when you can hold the hope of that, be inspired by them rather than feeling kind of like squashed by them. Sometimes we can go into like, oh God, no, I wish that was me. But if we can be inspired and then allow that to prompt us in our smaller journey, if you like, although there's no such thing as a smaller and bigger journey, if we can just keep with that commitment of those daily actions, even when it feels like it's not working, gang, it really is bloody working. Like, even especially those times when you think it's not working, trust me, it really bloody is. If you are feeling uncomfortable, it's definitely working. because it's pushing you into that next level. As long as you are taking steps from that place, like that's the important piece, isn't it? Like all those deep levels of discomfort, and then you transmute that piece, and then you move on to the next, and you transmute that piece, and you move on to the next. And we're only aware of those tiny little things, like trying on this particular jacket today, trying on this particular jacket or frequency today, stepping into this particular thing today. The thing you also have to remember is that look at this massive, huge thing that you are building. Like, and you can't see my arms like moving. I'm quite expressive on it with hands everywhere. And I've just realized, they're not going to be able to see this.
Just imagine the arms out, arms out.
Arms out. Like you've taken these tiny little steps, but those tiny little steps all add up. And right now, you are already midway of creating the life of your dreams. You've already been implementing all of these gorgeous, juicy, tiny steps, step by step by step by step by step. You are building the bigger picture already. So hold on to the hope of the bigger picture. Allow yourself to be inspired by people that are where you are wanting to be, because they're just trying to show you it's possible for you, because you're interconnected in the same way that they're interconnected. And allow it to inspire you as you take the threads towards that bigger thing that you're creating for yourself.
Absolutely. A big thing I've been like saying to people recently in terms of that element of comparison is like, are you being influenced or are you being inspired? So it's like, does this influence me to do a certain thing that feels out of alignment because I think it works for them? Or does this inspire me to follow the beat of my own drum and do what feels right for me? And like, it's been a game changer. Like, it's literally, yeah.
I love that. And that's that whole element, isn't it? Of your internal world, create your external reality, guys. Like, and I know most of us understand this at the cognitive level, but when you really embody the truth of it and you live from that place, like it hits differently. And that's one of those core elements of like, are you allowing the external world to shape your internal frequency? Are you allowing yourself to be influenced? Or are you allowing the external world to inform something juicier about the internal frequency that you're putting out into the world? Like, oh, I love that. That's so juicy.
The big thing, I think, as well about people's understanding of these things is we do have, well, majority of society, we do have a very mental outlook of things, right? Like, we're like, okay, we have a very base level understanding. But when we look at things like fear and grief and even joy and excitement and, you know, all the elements of frequency and emotions and energetics, they come into play at more than just that mental level. Like we've talked about so many times before, is like there is a physical element, there is an emotional element, and there is a spiritual element. And so many people don't seem to look at something and have the perspective of it on each level. It's just like, this is my understanding of it. It's purely a physical thing. It's purely a mental thing. Either. It can never be both. Like, babe. It is always all of them.
It's always all of them. Like, you're a multidimensional being, babe. Like, never just going to be one thing. Life would be so... You think about the intricacies of what it takes to create life. Like, the intricacies of what it takes to create a human being. Like, your body is always responding to all elements of life. We understand that. We understand that all elements of the body... Well, some people don't. Some people don't understand that all cells of the body are responding. But it's the same, like we are a living organism. As source energy itself, we are a living organism. It is always, always, always so much more intricate than our human brains will ever really, truly comprehend. Like, we're getting more of a comprehension around it all, but I think always just assume that it's way deeper than we think it is, and then we'll be in the ballpark of truth.
Yeah. Whatever you think it is, just times it by 50. You're good.
It's funny when I was, because I'm a trained mental health nurse, and we always talk about like the cohesion between the physical and the mental. And it's funny that even in the world of, being in the medical world, it's separate. It's considered separate. And so we treat people differently. So we treat mental health patients and then we'll send them off to the physical element, but nobody ever really properly links up. And it's like, there's nobody recognizing that the same physical ailments that they are having is directly related to the psychosis elements that they're having, but nobody bothers to really actually think about what that cohesion might be and how we might actually come together around that stuff. So I think there's huge changes coming for the planet, huge changes around that stuff. And it starts with us, doesn't it? It starts with us integrating the idea that there's always so much more to something than purely just the physical, just the emotional, or just the mental or spiritual element.
Totally.
For spirituality, you know, those that are still very in the 5D frequencies of like when they do a lot of spiritual bypassing of just thinking, oh, you know, well, this is spiritual peace and we're just going to get into positivity of, no, you're neglecting your emotional body, you're neglecting your physical body, you're neglecting the mental body stuff that needs to be moved through and transmuted around that stuff. So yeah, definitely cohesion is going to be a huge thing that hopefully going to be coming a lot more onto the planet with these 60 frequencies.
I mean, especially now that we're coming into that whole like age of Aquarius thing, right? Like, we're here for change, people. We're here for change. But this makes me think of like I was telling you before about Sari and that client, how she was explaining that an emotional trauma, even though we experience it as an emotional thing, this has the physical ability to change our cellular DNA. It changes the structure of our cells. And this is like a proven thing now. Yeah. And I'm like, if science can prove this isn't just woo anymore, right? Like this is a legitimate thing. And like that's what Sari was like trying to tell this client, because so much work that we do on an energetic level, especially Sari with that particular client, like she was restructuring and reprogramming that DNA back to that prior point before that trauma. Yeah. So that's not just healing it on that mental and emotional. It's healing it on the physical and spiritual. That's when we're able to actually process it and get rid of it and come out of the other side. Yeah. But it's like we are so stuck on focusing of like, okay, I have this problem. I've experienced this trauma. I'm going to just deal with this mental aspect of it. Or I'm just going to deal with the physical element of it, instead of taking into account all these other parts of ourselves that are still holding on to it and that need to be processed.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, that's when we are really going to step into it. I think this is why we've been so attached to the healing journey for so long, you know, in the 5-dimensional elements of things. There is a real identity attached to the fact that I am healing. And it's that element of recognizing that it's still the illusion of separation. There's still an idea that we need to be healed and we need to be, but actually, you do actually have the ability to completely transmute that illusion right now, but you can't do it in 5th-dimensional frequency because you still believe the illusion of separation from source in that frequency. When you are really able to recognize, oh, I do have the ability to shift the physical cells. I do have the ability to transmute this trauma. That's when you step into that source frequency element. And that's when you're able to see yourself as a whole being that is truly like able to anchor into these frequencies and not just speak the language of energy, but alchemize energy. Like that is your birthright. You are an energetic being and you get to be able to alchemize what it is that you want. In fact, it's your whole purpose for being here. Like it's literally the reason that you come here to play with transmuting that stuff. And when we can let go of this idea that it's only in these certain things, and we learn to look at ourselves as a whole being, and we actually learn to recognize, oh, I do have the power to shift that stuff. And notice, like your souls, just notice if there's a part of you that's really attached to the idea that you don't have the ability to shift this stuff, because that's what our human does. Our human keeps us safe. It keeps us rooted in the 3D. It is important that we stay in our human perspective, otherwise we'll just pop off. Like it's really important, but just notice where that element of you comes in and goes, I can't shift this. I can't shift. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. There is a gift in there for you, because when you transmute that belief, that's when this realm of magic is going to really open up for you, and you're going to be able to do that element of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual cohesion. That's when you're going to really feel the power of all that you are and step into that next level magic where unbelievable things happen, like literally unbelievable things, like not just transmuting DNA within your system, which is bloody powerful enough in and of itself. Like, oh my God, how amazing is that? But like literally weaving the fabric of the reality that you are experiencing, like literally instant manifestations, completely transforming people around you. Like that's a thing, like shifting people into their highest frequencies while you shift into yours. It's a natural side effect. And you witnessed this as well, didn't you, Chip, when you were in the program? People around you began to shift. It's That was a huge thing for me because I was like, oh God, we're really not separate. Like, we are really fucking not separate from each other. We are all interconnected. And just, it is life-changing. So the part of you that's trying to keep you small and to tell you that I couldn't possibly physically change myself using this energy stuff, it's just the part of you that's trying to keep you safe. But I promise you that there is so much magic on the other side of that. Abundance lives on the other side of fear.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing as always.
As always.
As always. Does the GC have anything they would like to bring and add into our fear conversation before we get ready to sign off?
Oh, you know them, babes. They will happy to chime in, especially when they're talking to you. All right. I'll see you in a sec. So good that I don't have to explain the woo here before I dive in as well.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm like, yep, cool. Bring them out, babe. We'll see you soon. Hi.
Such magic moving through for you, dear one. Anchored into a sovereign peace now, are you not? No stopping you, dear soul.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Has been particularly wondrous to witness your unfolding, dear soul. So, our fear frequency, you know this is our favorite topic of ours, dear soul.
Yes, I thought you would like to bring some input in.
Indeed. And so, you and Gail have done wondrous job of discussing key pieces that people very much in need of hearing at this time. But we do, of course, love to chime in. And so, what we are really wanting to help people to recognize is that fear is often definitely felt in mental body. And so, wanting to draw people's awareness into internal frequency. Notice how fear is often linked to past or linked to future. Notice what is happening for you in present moment. This is core alchemy piece in present moment mastery, dear souls, as you are stepping into your source frequency. Know that true alchemy can only ever really happen in present moment, because technically this is all that ever really exists. But we will not bamboozle brains at this time. So, key piece for you, dear ones, as you are alchemizing and practicing present moment mastery, get very clear what is happening for you in this moment. Not disregarding elements of past, disregarding elements of future, but feel into system of what is the core thread of what is happening for you at this time. So what this may look like is that mental body will be presenting a certain thought to you. This will probably be linked to anxiety about past or anxiety about future. So can you give us example, dear soul, of something that has come up for you or for one of your clients recently that we can play with?
Sure. So I've had a client recently that has stepped into a new relationship, and in her past relationship, her partner was unfaithful, and she has fear around this repeating itself.
Wondrous. And so you see this element of past, element of future. So past is, of course, scars and hurts of what has come before. This possibility, then also anxious that this could repeat itself in future. So let us get to the core in this present moment of the fear that is actually coming up at this time. Fear of betrayal, fear of recognizing that love maybe does not feel safe in this moment, getting to the core thread of what fear peace actually looks like in this moment. And of course, being informed by these pieces of past and future, but to the core frequency of fear itself is what is happening in this moment. What is making me feel powerless in this moment? What is making me feel disconnected from myself as source in this moment? Get to the core of the matter. This is where your power lies. And so when you are able to identify the core thread of what is happening for you in this moment, it does not feel safe for me to love. This is core. This is core. And it may have been different for this individual, but let us say, for example, that this is the core frequency that you are able to anchor into. That in this particular moment, it does not feel safe for me to love. And so
Yeah.
this is where the alchemy piece moves through. Allow it to move into heart space. Allow the emotion of it to speak to you, dear souls. It does not feel safe to love in this moment. Feel the grief of it. Our body will probably respond very cathartically through tears and such, but it also may wish to move. Recognize where your body is able to naturally transmute the emotion and feeling that you are moving through at this time when you are being with this emotion. Now, it may take time, dear souls. It may take time for the natural transmutation to happen. And there are two ways of doing this, dear souls. Very important for you to recognize the difference between spiritual bypassing and conscious transmutation. Conscious transmutation allows you to feel the depth of what it is that you are feeling, and then allow yourself to touch upon source frequency on other side. Be grateful for the emotion as it moves through, and allow yourself to then internally reconnect with the truth. Oh, of course it is safe to love. I am love. I am source frequency. This is something that happens internally. But there is also a spiritual bypassing process which says, oh, I have done this, I have moved it through my system, I am done now. But there is no actual internal reconnection to the truth that to love is safe in this moment. It must feel internally as if it has locked into place. Now, this can happen spontaneously by simply allowing yourself to sit with the feeling for long enough and allowing your presence, your gentle presence and awareness, your simple attention in this frequency. It will naturally transmute into love frequency because you are becoming comfortable. You are allowing much more of your love frequency to touch upon this element of you. But many of you are still quite uncomfortable with this level of energetic transmutation, and so may need a little bit of assistance. This is where your wonderful tools, such as writing, such as allowing yourself to picture this energetic pieces moving through you, allowing certain colors, certain lights. So let us say, for example, you can feel this wealth of grief in the heart space. It is uncomfortable. And so you allow yourself to picture, what does this grief feel like in my body? What does it feel like in my heart? Does it have a color? Does it have a density? Where does it sit in my system? And then once you have this piece of information, and your system will communicate with you, dear souls, it is always serving you, always working for you. Do not question what comes up. It may seem bizarre if you are doing this for first time, but very, very powerful and potent. Your system always communicates in metaphors, dear souls. Not designed to be easy. It is designed to be playful, somewhat of game. So going looking for, what does this emotion, what does this frequency feel like in my system, in my emotional body, in my physical body? I am aware of the thought. I have listened to this thought. Thank you so much for this thought that has come up. It is showing me that this is the frequency I am currently operating, that it is not safe for me to love in this moment. And so allow this to sit in system, allowing your source frequency piece to show you, oh, look at me pretending that it is not okay for me to love in this moment. How wondrous that I have managed to convince myself of this truth that is entirely untrue. And then allowing your system to inform you about how it wishes to transmute this piece. This may be that guides come in to support you. It may be that you work with the visualization of light transmuting this piece within you. Maybe you work with music to introduce healing frequencies and tones. Sound very, very healing. Also, channeling through these pieces, allowing yourself to move through this process, very physically utilizing as if you are moving this energy through you. You may also wish to do a piece of channeled writing around this, checking in with that element of you that understands the bigger picture of what is happening, showing you that you are not alone, showing you that you are love frequency itself, and that this peace is simply the illusion of separation coming up to greet you so that you can transmute it. How does the version of you feel? The version of you that knows it is deeply safe to love in this moment. How does this version of you feel? Allow this to spread through you. Now, this may come from your own internal frequency, your own internal element of actually allowing this truth to expand within your system, directed by you, or it may be that it is the patience that comes with allowing yourself to sit in this frequency and allow it to transmute of its own accord while you connect with the breath and allow it to move through your system with loving awareness. It does not matter what you choose, dear souls. The point that we are getting at is that this transmutation piece is completely within your design. You get to choose how you transmute these frequencies. And there are many, 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 many ways of doing this. But you get to choose. Get to the core frequency. Allow it to sit in your system. Look at it. Allow it to be there. Do not fear it. Allow it to come up in your awareness to show you where you are believing the illusion of separation from source. Give it your loving attention. Allow it to be in the body. It will either naturally transmute itself or you will be prompted because you have your own internal connection to source, dear souls, that comes from heart space, heart portal, a very fiber of your being. Listen to your innate wisdom within, and it will show you what to do to transmute these pieces. And if it is not showing you very clearly, then simply sit with it, dear souls. Allow yourself to get comfortable with the discomfort and it will transmute itself. Allow yourself to trust yourself in this moment that it is okay to feel this frequency and it will naturally either transmute itself energetically or you will be shown the pieces that you can do to assist with the transmutation of this energy. You will know when this is done, dear souls, because you will feel a little lighter. And if you are struggling to transmute this piece independently, then allowing yourself to access some further support, whether this is accessing a spiritual practitioner who understands the language of frequency, or simply connecting with a friend, connecting with somebody that represents the safety of love, connecting with somebody that can help you to feel comforted in your own heart space. This also very powerful in moving frequencies around, even when you are not directly working with these frequencies, because you cannot compartmentalize energy, dear souls. And if you are placing your conscious awareness and setting the intention to transmute this particular thread that is moved through for you, and you use the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and also other elements of yourself as source within this process, then this will be powerful transmutation piece. And we understand that many will have questions around this. Do not hesitate to reach out to the gal. She is always happy to assist with these questions.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Most welcome, dear soul. And before we pop off, just wanting to celebrate and congratulate our wondrous journey that you are on, dear soul. Always being courageous soul that steps out, spreads her wings, and flies in spite of the fear frequency that you may feel. And this really is key to your success, dear soul. It is not that you do not feel fear. It is that you are able to trust yourself to deal with it and fly anyway. Many dear souls can learn such a lot from your courage, dear soul. So wanting to congratulate you on this piece, dear one.
Oh, thank you.
Most welcome. Sending oodles of love to all listening, and of course to yourself, dear soul. Goodbye for now.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Oh, they waffled on a bit there, didn't they?
I was like, man, I've missed this.
They're right into phase 3 at the moment. So, and that's literally what they were describing was phase 3. And they were like, you need to hear this. So
they're like, we're just going to like add this. No, it's fine. We'll add this in. We'll add this in. I'm like, keep going, guys. You're good. You're good. You got this.
Oh, it's been such a learning curve. They've been doing all kinds of, I've had a new group in. And so the 60 process of manifestation has kind of escalated even more. It's just so juicy. You learn so much every day. It's just, I get to be in soul school every single day, and it's amazing.
It's so amazing how, like, you know, the more and more we expand ourselves as well, the more and more our clients expand. And then when they expand, we learn even more. So then it's just like the process repeats.
Yeah, it's just co-creating magic, isn't it? Like, that's literally what I've come to see it as now. Is like, you know, we are in service to each other. Like, you know, like I learned so much from our time together. Do you know, like it's that co-creative juiciness of there is a piece in there for everyone involved. Like it's just magic. I just love it.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, babe. If people are wanting to reach out and ask you questions about it, they're wanting to connect with the GC and work with you further, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us over on Instagram at I am Leanne Rose. Same handle on TikTok and on YouTube as well. Although it's called the Galayla Collective channel. I'm not sure how the handles work over there. I'm still, you know me, tech, like just does not compute in my brain. But we also have a website, which is thegalaylcollective.com. I am in the middle, like I say, in the middle of a huge rebirth at the moment, a huge rebranding. And so everything's a bit messy. So if you're looking at like my website and you're looking at my Instagram and going, they don't quite link up, it's just because of this rebirth process. And I'm taking my time with it. You know, I'm not putting myself under loads of pressure, but thegalaylcollective.com is my website. You will see the picture of me over there. It just won't look anything like my Instagram right now.
And that's the whole beauty of the journey, right, babe?
Exactly. And I'm learning just to go out, not censor myself, and realize, oh, it doesn't matter if it's not complete. Like people get to see the journey then. Like I'm not about hiding the sticky bits. The sticky bits is where the magic is. So yeah,
exactly.
At the minute.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Rose. I've had so much fun and just love chatting to you. It's just the best.
Well, this is your Earthside Spirit Guide signing off for the week. If you'd like to know more about how you can work with me, you can follow me on Instagram at l.embers or visit my website lembers.com.